So welcome to New Jersey Forest Service Nursery, preparing for the spring planting season. And tonight with us is Courtney Willitts. She is the Supervising Forester at the New Jersey Forest Service. She's been with the Forest Service for coming up on 9 years full time. And last year she was promoted to Supervising Forester. She also oversees the State Forestry Nursery and Forest Research Education Center, also known as the FREC. She has a master's degree in forestry from SUNY and a bachelor's degree from Stockton. Last month, we were privileged to have with us the New Jersey Fire Service, and in particular, Jeremy Weber, Joe Battersby, and Dave Akey, and they're 3 supervising fire wardens. They did a great job explaining about forest fire, our risks, how to prevent forest fire, and experiences that they've had, and also focused on the FireWise program, which is a state program, and that your community can become involved in. So if you get a chance and you haven't seen that one, go to our YouTube page. It's an excellent, excellent video. I rewatched it myself. It was that good. So anyway, I highly recommend it. And thank you to the Forest Service. I'm not going to talk about what I'm going to ask you to do, to donate, to join. I'm only going to ask you to do one thing in this meeting, which is to register for our annual meeting. Yes, we charge for it, but we serve great food and we have great presenters, and it's an expensive meeting to put on, so we charge for it. But I ask you to register and I ask you to attend because you can learn a lot there. We have an incredible keynote speaker, Keir Klubsig. He is from what is known as the Jones Center. It's down in Georgia. It's 30,000 acres, and he's responsible for it. And it is one of the premier forest management sites in the United States. And to hear from him directly will just be a privilege. We have a host of other presenters. It's a great day. We're also going to be updating, if you're a landowner, we have some very serious updates on legislation and regulation, which you do not want to miss. So registration's already gone out by email. It'll go out again. Probably you'll get it again this week. Or you can just go to our website, newjerseyforestry.org, and register. And with that, I'm going to turn this over to Courtney. It's all yours, Courtney.
Thanks, Rich. Make sure I share my screen right here again. All right. How are we looking?
Looking good.
Awesome. All right. So thanks again, Rich, for inviting me. I'm super happy to be here. I know I got a chance to be on part of Backyard Forestry. I think it was around this time last year with a couple of other folks, but I'm pretty excited to be here talking about, preparing for the spring planting season. Like Rich said, my name is Courtney Willitts. I'm supervising forester, overseeing the nursery and also our Forest Resource Education Center, finally called the FREC, over in Jackson Township, New Jersey. So we're gonna kind of go through a few things tonight. We're gonna talk about kind of a little bit of the history of the nursery. We'll go through some of our previous challenges, current challenges, maybe some things in the future that we might need to plan for and adapt to. And what I really want to know and really want to find out is, what kinds of things do you all need from the nursery, or what are you looking from the nursery? So I think we're going to have some really great questions to kind of pose to you guys to like, how can we better serve all of you to make sure that, you're fulfilling some of your goals as a landowner or as a nonprofit, those kinds of things, and how we can help you. So it's super important for us to be able to understand, the needs of you all, so we can better suit what you're looking for.
So Courtney, would it be a good time just to jump in and throw up a poll on who people are, just to see
let's do it.
Who you're talking to, so you can maybe adjust your presentation a little bit on the fly to respond to that. So let me find the right quiz here, and I'm going to relaunch this poll. And there we go. Did that come up, Courtney?
Yep, I can see it.
Okay. Still clicking in.
And as people are kind of filling out the poll here, just showing you kind of a first look at the nursery in case none of you have ever been there. There's a lot of people that we always hear, oh, I didn't know this place ever existed. So we're hoping we can give you an idea of what it looks like and get you excited about coming to visit us at the same time.
So I think that's about everyone has logged in on the poll. And what do you see, Courtney? About 44% landowners. Next group is 30% gardener landscapers. And then local government is tied with other. And then NGOs are a relatively small group of attendees tonight.
Okay, great.
Good? All right.
Yeah, good to know. Thank you all. Yeah, so as we kind of come into the nursery here, kind of one of the first really cool things that you see at the office is just like this really cool, majestic white oak. And kind of, it's something really neat to see and surround the area. It's got these nice picnic tables and everything around it. So it gets us really excited about, kind of looking at the start to finish, that we're the start of, trees' lives here and, what they can become and grow into. So it's really cool, really fun experience. And I'll just kind of talk to you guys, just give you an idea. So one of my favorite trees, actually, I was kind of joking with Rich about this a little bit earlier, because I'm like, I've been thinking about it because he asked me this question and I was really excited to answer, because the more I thought about it, it's a really big part of my life. So my favorite tree is actually the Sweet Bay magnolia, or the magnolia family in general, right? Because to me, it's a native species of southern New Jersey, which is where I'm primarily from. And to me, it's kind of a diamond in the rough. And you really get to experience it nicely in like the later part of spring, because most times you'll smell it before you even see it. It's got this really sweet, fragrant smell from the flower. It's a really pretty, simple flower. And it's usually just hiding in the swamps of South Jersey. So it's not a really big, majestic tree. It's generally an understory tree, kind of shade tolerant, but it's really beautiful. And it's actually, we kind of named our daughter after it. So my daughter's name is Magnolia. So it's really, really big part of my life. So I just wanted to share that with you all. There we go. So like I said, I wanted to give everybody kind of a little sneak peek into, some of our history and background of the nursery. So we didn't always start in Jackson. One of our first state forest nurseries was actually in Bass River, sometime around 1906 or so, or around the beginning of the Forest Service. And then it was actually located in Greenbank after that. So kind of along the Mullica River area of South Jersey, and, around the 20s to 50s. And then from there, it kind of migrated to Washington Crossing and kind of the central part of the state, from about 1926 or so to the early 80s. And from the early 80s is where it really switched over to the Jackson area. And it's been there ever since. And it was actually the Jackson nursery was actually previously a quail farm that had been there since the 30s. So there's definitely a lot of history in that area. And I'll just give you an idea of what some of that might have looked like. So we have some cool pictures from a little bit from the state archives here of the Greenbank nursery, and kind of what some of the methods and kind of style of growing seedlings looked like back then. So a lot different from kind of what we see these days, but still kind of the same idea. I also wanted to give people an idea of, okay, well, how did the nursery come about, and what are we here for, and what reasons do we provide seedlings and that type of thing. So we're actually guided by specific legislation. So we primarily have to supply New Jersey landowners across the state with seedlings, and that's who the products are available for, right? And one really cool thing is also that it's actually written to the legislation that we provide seedlings for third graders. So free if we have them available. This year we were in a little bit of a tight spot because we wanted to make sure we had enough seedlings for all the landowners and everything. So we weren't quite able to do it this year, but I'm hopeful that next year we'll be able to get it moving along again. And that's a really interesting program too, because basically we have individuals from schools sign up to be able to receive the seedlings, and then we set up pickup times and things like that with them. So it's a really cool program. Not something that a lot of people know about. And then well, who are the seedlings available for? And I know, Rich, when we were kind of talking about some of the questions that the registrant had to begin with, this was a big part of it, is okay, well, I'm a landowner, can I just go purchase seedlings from the nursery? Yeah, definitely, of course. Especially for, your forest stewardship plans, the work that you're doing in there. If it's anything to reforest your property, if you're trying to do work with, managing erosion issues, or you want more wildlife habitat maybe, or even if it's just, you want to beautify your property. Well, those are all things that you can purchase the seedlings for. And one of the biggest, most important things is right now we can only use these seedlings specifically in New Jersey. So it's nice, but also kind of limits who we can sell the seedlings to as well. So I'm going to kind of joke around with some of these things, but you'll kind of see this throughout our discussion tonight is, all right, well, some of our previous challenges are also some of our current challenges, and a lot of those things are really going to play a big role into like what challenges we have in the future also. So it's not like these things are quite new. But so one of the first things we want to talk about is seedling and seed availability, right? So a lot of things that really play into what we can plant or have available for people, at any given year is, well, was it a good mast year? Did we get a lot of seed from mast trees like oaks or hickories, things like that? Did we have any weather related issues that may have impacted how well the seed has become? Did it impact flowers? During the spring, we get a lot of these, we've seen it just tonight. We get a lot of these late, winter storms and things like that. And that can really impact some of the trees, especially in the, spring, freezing the buds and flowers and things like that. And it, might cause issues with how we can get seed for the upcoming year. So a lot of things we got to think about and really look at as we time things out. Staff at any given time, right? A lot of the challenges we've had in the past is there's kind of a limited amount of staff, and maybe what their skill levels are too, and trying to get continuous training for us to learn new methods and things like that and how we do things. Equipment infrastructure and irrigation, some of these things are always there too, and it's things that have been challenging in the past. So, we always tease that, forestry hasn't really changed a heck of a lot in how we do things, but, a lot of the technology changes. And sometimes some of the methods change with new research and things that we gain more understanding in. So, it helps us adapt and be better at what we do and make sure, we have a better understanding so that we can help you all as landowners and landscapers and gardeners and that type of thing too. And I'm sure everybody knows here, especially these days, landowners dealing with emerald ash borer issues and things like that, yeah, we always have pest and disease issues that come up. I mean, in the past, it was things like, chestnut blight that we had to deal with, or Dutch elm disease. And, these things really had a huge impact, across the landscape. And we really have to keep tabs on those things and make sure we can adapt and adjust to those things and help you all do that too with your forests. So maybe I'll pause right there for a second, Rich, and see, are you getting any questions in about things or some of our facilities or anything like that?
Well, we had a number of questions. One of the questions interesting that you mentioned diseases and pests was I had a question come in tonight by email about the woolly adelgid, and will hemlocks be available, and are there resistant hemlocks?
Yeah, so those are great questions. So we do currently have some containerized hemlocks in our greenhouse right now, but yeah, that's something that we always got to think about. I mean, we're thinking about it in terms of ash and everything too. So right now, yeah, we do have some hemlock that's for sale and available. Some of the genetic stock has come from areas that we've seen a little bit more resistance from. We're hoping that we can maybe do some more experimental work into the future and maybe try to work with some of those genetics where we are seeing these things happen. That way we can have stock available for people to plant without maybe as high of a concern that they might be affected by woolly adelgid. So yeah, those are definitely things that we're concerned about, and we want to try to kind of nip as much as we can.
Speaking of history, there's an interesting little anecdote in the chat about someone who was talking about seedlings and said, my daughter brought home an evergreen and she's now 33 and the tree is huge. So I don't know if that was from school or from this program, but it's still nice to see that, you know, it's always, when we're talking about forestry, we're always saying, this is not corn. You don't plant it, harvest it, and plant it again. So everything we're talking about is long-term. And so it's nice to see someone who's observing just a segment of that and has seen the success. There was also another question that about climate change, and is the nursery shifting to more southern species due to climate change?
Yeah, so that's actually something that we're putting a lot of thought into, and I'm glad you guys asked that question because that was one of the topics that we wanted to cover in here. So yeah, we were going to talk about a little bit later, but definitely that's something that we're really looking into. We're trying to work with some of our other programs and figuring out how to best deal with that. But yeah, we're really taking a look at what species are just south of us in terms of the state, and what species are probably going to be better adapted, and also what species might be moving further north out of the state. So things like sugar maple and larch and some stuff like that, we're actually really concerned about. They're really keystone species and things, but how do we better adapt and make sure you all have resilient forests, in spite of the climate changes that are happening? So yeah, we don't have any particular species lined out just quite yet, but that's definitely something that we're researching and looking more into.
Right. And also remembering that there are many factors to what defines resilience. And it's not just one thing, or it's not just ambient temperature as an issue. We have these, different rain patterns now. But the other questions are, are we working with data which is over a long enough period to actually make changes, or are we going to see ebbs and flows as we go forward 20, 30, 40 years? So
definitely
very hard to predict. So I'll let you get back to your course, because otherwise you'd be on slide 3 for quite some time.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm glad. These are really good questions. I'm glad people are asking these.
And there's another story of a pine seedling that's now 55 years old. It's getting, another 15 years, it'll catch up to me. But
I love that.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it the most exciting for us as foresters, is that, like, we always say it's the best thing when we start our careers and we do a planting or we do a regeneration treatment or something like that, and by the time the end of our career rolls around, like, we see how that treatment has progressed and how those trees have grown, and if they turned out the way we thought it was going to turn out. And that's the most fun part about being a forester in my eyes.
What are those 2 words? It depends.
Exactly. We tease everybody at this point. Foresters, it depends. All right, so we'll get scooching along here. So I just wanted to give everybody kind of an overview of, okay, well, what kind of things are at the nursery? What type of equipment, and what does it look like? So we have, so our newest greenhouse was built, I think it was finished around 2020, 2021. And that's very, very high tech in terms of, the things that we've worked with. It's actually all computer controlled. So the climate, the lighting, not quite the watering, but we're looking into some of those things as well. So it's very, very high tech, and it's got its positives and negatives being that way, but it really helps us control a lot of the environment in that greenhouse, so that we have a lot of good production of our seedlings as well. We have an old greenhouse on site, older one that's a little bit more manual, but again, a lot of the same kind of lines. We have UV lighting to help grow our seedlings a little quicker. We have they're both heated, so we can kind of get seedlings going. Generally, we start the container seedlings, which we'll talk about kind of the difference between bare root and container a little bit. But we generally start those usually late fall, early winter, so that we can have them ready for the following spring and fall seasons for y'all to be able to purchase and plant. We have another greenhouse that's a little bit in disrepair, but right now we're kind of looking into things that we can use it for, maybe like a shade house or a cold frame house, kind of transition things from the greenhouses to like the current temperatures, so that, they don't go into like a temperature shock or anything like that, which is kind of what our hoop house is for as well. So it's just a smaller version. It's shaded, it's not temperature controlled, but kind of to get those seedlings acclimated before they really come out into the weather and get put into the ground from the greenhouses. And then we also have what are our bare root fields. So we have about 8 to 10 acres of fields, and I'll give you an example of what this kind of looks like. And I know, Rich, I think you might have had a question about, the differences between bare root and container, or what people might like. I don't know if it might be
maybe you should first
time.
explain. Bare root means in one sentence.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. So, okay, we'll get to that next. I got a little excited. I jumped ahead of myself there.
I got it.
So just to give you an idea, some of the other equipment we have before we kind of pop into that. So you'll see on the left here, that's one of our newest pieces of equipment. So that's probably the most up-to-date thing we have on the nursery property at the moment. And what you see on the back of that, so this kind of
I should take a poll on it, on how many people want to drive that tractor right now, because everyone would say yes. I'm sorry to interrupt, but it's beautiful.
If I had a nickel for every time somebody in the Forest Service said that, can I hop on in that? That's how we get a lot of people over to the nursery. But yeah, so this is our newest tractor, and it's got to be so large and beefy so it can actually pull this what's called a lifter behind it. So that blue piece of equipment actually digs underneath the seedlings into the ground, and all in the same motion, it'll dig under and lift them up and bounce the soil off of the seedlings. So it has to be able to carry a lot of weight, which is why we really needed a new piece of equipment for that. Because you'll see on the picture on the right side of the graphic here, most of our other equipment is probably from around the 70s, early 80s. So, they have their quirks in themselves too. One thing that you're not going to see in this image, so we actually have a lot of specialized equipment. You can kind of catch one of the pieces in the background a little bit, this green piece of machinery here. So that's a lot of our planting machines. So there's really specialized machines for planting the tree seed in nice lines for the beds that we have out in the bare root fields. We also have, some plowing equipment, things that spread mulch and things like that in the field as well. Something interesting that we also have on site. So we were saying seed collection is a really important thing for us, because we collect mostly all of our own seed for the trees that get planted in the containers and what we call the bare root in the fields. So we actually have what are called seed orchards, basically collections of trees. A lot of these have been sourced by their traits that they show. So we can have, not only genetically diverse trees for all of you across the state, but so they actually grow really well and nicely and have good traits. So we actually have these areas on site. One thing that might be a little tricky to tell from the picture is that these trees are really pretty tall right now. The ones in the center and to the left are probably upwards of like 70 to 80 feet tall. So you're probably saying, all right, well, how the heck do you collect seed from these trees? So we don't actually collect the cones off the ground because for the most part, that's when they've already broken open and spread their seed and then fall to the ground. So one of our challenges is that because these trees are so tall, we either have to cut some of the current trees that we have to get seed for the next year. We might have to source it from other parts of the state where we have trees that are mature but shorter, smaller. And we're also trying to start a process of creating new seed orchards. So collecting seed from these trees in different ways. Sometimes we need to use lifts or ladders, things like that. But we need to start some new seed orchards. And because it takes quite a while for trees to mature where they produce seed, pines are usually not too bad, maybe 15 to 20 years old before they produce seed. But we really need to kind of get a jump start on that now. So that's one of the things that we're looking into is making sure we have trees that we can, one, reach the seed on, and two, still have, good genetics from the previous trees that we've had before. So again, just to kind of give you a feel for, what some of the buildings are like at the nursery and kind of what you might experience when you come there. So I always have fun with this. So the picture in the center at the top here, this is actually one of the old quail coops that was around when it was the quail farm. And from what I've heard, apparently it was almost one of the world's largest quail farms at one point in time in this area. So it's got a really, really neat history. They hatched a lot of quail from here. So we still have some of those old buildings on site. A lot of them right now are kind of used for storage. But over the top right here is our nursery office. And then we have a couple of workshops. And then this building on the bottom in the center, that's actually our sorting and grading facilities and where we process a lot of the seedlings. So we'll get a nice little deep look into that in a minute. And then these are our greenhouses. So the one in the center is that new greenhouse that I was talking about. So that's the most up-to-date one that we have. And these are all for the most part covered in the polyplastic. Just so you have a little idea, this is what our nice little container seedlings look like inside that new greenhouse there to the left. All right, so this is what some of our irrigation piping looks like. So we actually, come springtime, once we get the things planted and we're in the process of getting ready, we'll actually drag all these pipes out, hook them to our irrigation system that comes from our pond on the site. And that's our irrigation system right there, sprinkler heads and aluminum piping. So pretty simple thing. All right, so here's if you didn't know what bare root seedlings are, this is going to give you a really good idea. So just kind of how it sounds, right? So the roots are actually bare when we provide them to the public when they purchase the seedlings. So like I said, that lifter machine that we had on the back of the tractor actually digs underneath the soil, underneath the main part of the roots, and it'll pull the seedlings up and it'll bounce the soil off of them so that they get nice and free of soil. They're nice and light. We'll box them up and then they get put into our large cooler. So you can get an idea here. So to the left, that's what some of our pine seedlings look like out in the field there. And don't worry, those ones to the right aren't dead. It's just wintertime when we took this picture. So But that's generally what they'll look like before we get ready to lift them. And then this is what our container seedlings or our tubes look like right now. So they're relatively small tubes, probably about 6 inches or so in height. And they get put into all these nice little neat racks. We're actually looking into maybe some different versions of pots and things like that that might meet our needs a little bit better. But this is the inside of our old greenhouse. So you can see all the tubes lined up there, and then they'll get packed into shipping boxes and sent out to all you guys when you order the tubes.
So Courtney, as a person who just walks into the nursery, why would I want one format versus another, bare root versus tube? What's the difference to the end user?
Yeah, so again, it kind of depends. So a lot of times, people that enjoy the tubes for the most part, like a lot of times we'll get school groups that like having the individual tubes to be able to give out to people, or towns, sometimes they like to give them out to the public, and that's a nice way of doing it for Arbor Day ceremonies, things like that. The tubes are actually a little bit more expensive than the bare root, just because there's more involved in growing them and prepping them and having the soil and that kind of thing. The bare root are relatively inexpensive, and they don't require shipping and a lot of packing and that kind of thing. So if you're a landowner and you're looking to reforest, kind of larger sections of area, a lot of times the bare root seedlings are more cost effective and they're easy to carry when you try to go out in the field with them. Right. So the containers, you either have to carry a rack out and around with you, or kind of pile the tubes into a satchel or something, where the bare root, as long as you keep the roots moist, they're really easy to carry around and pack out to areas where you have to try and plant them, especially in large quantities.
Thank you.
Yeah. Right, so this is what our grading building looks like. So this is actually built around early to mid 2000s. So after we kind of lift all of those bare root seedlings of the field, this gives you an idea of where they go. So this picture in the center, this is actually it's a very large walk-in cooler. We actually use a forklift around inside here to move the boxes of seedlings around and things. So they'll go right into this cooler so that they stay dormant until we get ready to distribute them to all of you all. So they'll hang out in this cooler. To the left, you'll see this is kind of where we set up our grading and sorting operations. So we'll actually sort through all the seedlings that get lifted from the field. We'll make sure they're, a particular size, because, a lot of you are looking for certain size trees, making sure they meet your needs, they're large enough and that kind of thing. So they'll actually get sorted through in this large building here, and then we'll count them and we'll bundle them up so that they can be set up for people's orders. And the fun thing about in this building too, we actually do quite a bit of different operations. So you'll see kind of this gray roll-up area to the left here, the roll-up door. That's actually where our kiln is and where a lot of our seed processing equipment is. So we process all of our own seed. So it has to be, especially with the pine cones. So a lot of times we have to get the pine cones open. So we'll put them in there where it's nice and warm. The pine cones will pop open. We get the seed out from them. We have some machines that are called tumblers and things like that that help us just get the seed out. And then there's also some machines in there that actually blow the seed away from some of the lighter material that, isn't actually the seed. So there's a lot of fun, different processing equipment and things we have in there. And then these images to the right here, so that's actually our seed cooler. On the top right, as you can see all of our seed that's stored in the cooler at the moment. So that's all the seed that's been collected. And some different species can actually last a lot longer than others. So, they can still have pretty good viability, and we'll store them in the cooler there until we're ready to plant for the next season. So I don't know, is this
Courtney, a good time to ask a question to people?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. So for Courtney's planning purposes, I thought it would be great if we could ask you a couple of questions, just very 30,000-foot views of seedling types that you would want. Would you want bare root or would you want tubed? So this could help them. Whoa, that was a big jump to 100% for a second at the top, but now it's leveling off of it. But definitely bare root is in the lead.
It's always interesting to see the different trends and again, like the types of products that people want, because it does really change from year to year.
Absolutely. So, yeah, 75% bare root.
Wow. Very
Yeah.
good to know. Okay.
Excellent. And I think we had one other question on types. It was a seedling category. This is just very broad again. It's softwoods or hardwoods.
Yeah, this is always really nice to see. I know, we kind of get a little bit of differences region wide, but it's always interesting, what purposes people are looking to plant their seedlings and what type of stock that they like.
So speaking of the bare root versus the tubed, one of the questions in the chat is there, you mentioned a price differential. Could you estimate what that is? I mean, we're not asking you for a price quote.
Yeah, so I know, I think we do bundles of 25, 50 at the minimum, but I think it's depending on what you're getting, it's about $30 to $40 for a bundle of 25. Where some of your tube seedlings, digging in my memory here. I know we have the pricing on our website, but some of the tube seedlings, we actually ship them. I think it's via FedEx, and you get about 30 of them, and it's somewhere around the same price range. I think it's a little bit more. So depending on the species, it might be 75, maybe to $100.
Okay, well, you can consult the website. So the winner is hardwoods at 86%.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
That's good to know. I wonder if it's a lot of wildlife trees too.
Yeah. We're going to hold off on that last poll till you explain a little bit more about what you have this year and what you're expecting to have this year. And then we'll ask another poll. But
Sounds good.
yeah, a couple of questions have come up regarding pawpaws. Do you grow pawpaws?
Yeah, so we actually collected quite a bit of seed this year for pawpaw. I don't think it's on our list of species right now what we have to offer bare root. But it's definitely something that we'd be looking to plant and be able to sell in the future. Yeah, a lot of people seem to be into the fruit trees, and it's really interesting too because agroforestry is kind of getting a little bit more into the spotlight again these days.
Somebody's asking, should they use the chat or Q&A? Use the chat, but I'll check Q&A now just to see what is out there, which of course is where you're going to end up, which is what seedlings will be available this spring, and questions along those lines. I'll keep an eye on that, and we'll get them to you before the show ends.
Great, thanks. All right, so like we said, this is kind of a running theme that you'll see here, but yeah, some of the current challenges we have. So, right, seedling availability, seed availability, again, helping us understand what kind of species and types and things that you guys are all looking for. So thanks. That really, really helps tonight, just answering some of those questions from the poll is like, what are you all looking for? And that's going to help shape what we kind of do moving forward. Staffing is, always kind of an issue. We've been pretty lucky this past year to get an influx of some really, really good people. We got another full-time staff person. We have some really good part-time staff. So things are looking really well. They're really creative thinkers. So, that's kind of something that always ebbs and flows a little bit. Again, equipment infrastructure, you saw a lot of our things are kind of from the 70s, 80s-ish, pre some of those eras. So we got to be really diligent in terms of like maintaining our equipment and taking care of it and making sure it's in tip top shape so that we can get through the process that we need to efficiently to be able to get the seedlings to you all. And again, we talked about some of the pest and disease things going on a little bit. So these days, we really have to worry about hemlock woolly adelgid we talked about a little bit, and our bash borer. So some of the seedlings that we provide are going to change based on that. So we've actually kind of cut back on growing those species a little bit to make sure we can really rethink, okay, how can we help you all make more resilient forests that aren't at risk? How can we stop and think, okay, what can we do maybe genetics wise to see if there's some more resistance that we can work into these trees for some of these pests and that type of thing too.
So Courtney, are there any volunteer opportunities at the nursery, or is that all only in-house staff?
Yeah, definitely. We always look for volunteers. So our difficult thing these days is trying to coordinate and organize how we work with our volunteers, but we're trying to get a better handle on those kinds of things too. So we actually have a new email set up that anybody who's interested can contact us through that email to volunteer. And we're trying to create kind of like a directory and that type of thing too, so that we can really work through some of these things and really line up volunteers with things that they're interested in doing too.
Now, is that email a general email, or is that just for the volunteering?
That's just for volunteers. Yep.
So if someone wants to make an appointment to bring a class, let's say, to visit, is that something they would do through the website?
So generally classes and things we kind of funnel through the FREC. But I mean, we always monitor that volunteer email, so we'll make sure it gets to the right person, and we can work things into the mix.
I'm just, as I say, I'm keeping my eye on the chat, and these things are popping up, and so I'm throwing them to you as questions.
Yeah,
Okay.
Great questions.
All right, so you're back to your challenges.
Yeah, so kind of one of the new things we got to deal with these days, right? We talked about a little bit already is climate. That's something that's really changing how we think about the species that we decide to grow, what seed we collect, and what impacts they're going to have for you all in terms of your forests and making sure you have things that are resilient and less risk averse and that type of thing. So a lot of species we're kind of trying to look into are, okay, we know we're going to get a lot more drought conditions moving forward, right? We experienced a lot of it just this past year. And I think a lot of people are kind of currently in drought conditions still, even with a lot of the rain and snow that we've gotten. So looking into species that are pretty drought tolerant, that can be planted in areas that are going to be, better adapted to the changing conditions. We talked about things that are going to be better adapted to warming temperatures. So that's something that we got to keep an eye on too. And then again, with a lot of these more severe storms and flooding events that are happening too, if we have species that are better suited to kind of be held up to these flooding issues and things better as well, so that we don't get a lot of damage from water and things like that and some of the issues associated with that. So those are a lot of the things that we're dealing with right now, and we're trying to figure out a way to find better solutions too. And again, we always have some of the infrastructure things going on. So this is actually some types of things that we're looking into where maybe we can have volunteers help us with, and feel really good about the things that they're working on helping us get through. All right, so this is
the big question because
at hand.
People keep asking, is this available? Is that available? I've been avoiding those questions.
You and me both.
But I've been seeing them. I haven't been ignoring them. I've just been avoiding them. There's a difference. And so anyway, you're on.
Yeah, so we've been getting constant questions, and we do apologize because we are kind of late in the game with when we usually have a catalog out. But I know it's been a couple of years since we've been able to have enough seedlings. So we had a really good program that was going on. It was called the Arbor Day Foundation Tree Recovery Program. And I know there was a lot of municipalities and small landowners and things like that, we're pretty lucky in having this program, but that's also where pretty much all of our seedlings went to. So that was a lot of the issues why we weren't able to provide seedlings for private landowners in the past, is that most of the trees that we grew on site went to this program, so they were available free to the public. So last year was actually the 10th and final year for that program, which unfortunately for some people that means we weren't able to do the free seedlings anymore, but also fortunately it means that we now have more seedlings available to private landowners and other landowners in New Jersey to be able to purchase and have. So again, that kind of came to a close. I know we were getting a lot of questions about that one and if that program was going to be available continuing, but we also really had a lot of excitement from you all. Is like, okay, are we going to have seedlings again for this year? We need some seedlings. So yeah, they're going to be available. We're just working on the seedling catalog the last couple of days, and it's almost finalized. So I'm pretty confident that we'll hopefully have it out, posted on our website and sent around early next week. And as you can see here, so we already have our container species. Our order form is posted on our website right now, so you can keep sending in orders for those. But the bare root species, this is what you can expect to see on that catalog and that order form that's going to get posted and go around. So some of the things that you can expect to be able to purchase for planting bare root stock. So it'll be really good. Some of the goals that we currently have too is we want to be able to produce really quality seedlings about 1 to 2 years old for all of you to be able to purchase and have for your planting needs.
So since you have your crystal ball out, maybe you can tell us which one of these species is deer resistant.
That's always the ongoing question. I don't know. Here even in South Jersey, I don't think there's anything that I've put in the ground or had grown that the deer haven't tried to eat. If they're hungry enough, they're gonna go for it.
I think if you plant fence, it is deer resistant. But other than that,
Definitely.
and somebody made a note about that, only fence can protect you from deer. And that's the reality. And it takes maintenance when you put fencing in. So there's a reciprocal expense associated with that. But there really is no particular species. Everybody asks that question every time we talk about planting.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen them eat everything from, briars to, I think, oh God, the thorniest things you could find. So I don't think there's anything that really deters them too much. Unless they, like you said, unless they can't get to it.
Okay.
Yeah, so some of the other things that we're trying to shoot for this year too is a little bit of more experimental work. So we're actually working with our sister, one of our agencies, Fish and Wildlife. So we're trying to do some, pollinator work, grow some of those things in the greenhouses. So I think they're being used primarily for kind of in-house work right now. But one of the things that we're trying to do, you can see in this image, is we're trying to plant them around the nursery site too. So the more pollinators we have, the better it is for the trees that we have growing around our site that we collect seed from, but also it helps, provide, some habitat, little nicer aesthetics around the area. So those are some things that we're kind of looking and trying to do this year as well. So I know, Rich, we were talking about this a little bit earlier. There's a lot of chatter going around these days about, federal funding and things that are happening. So it actually impacts a lot of the things that we do a lot. So we're actually lucky enough the last couple of years to get what's called the bipartisan infrastructure law. So we have grants as part of that law. So this is actually going to help us continue to get some more new equipment to be able to kind of modernize and do things more efficiently around the nursery. It's going to help us look into different containers that are actually producing better seedlings also. So these are some of the things we're looking into, helping us set up that new seed orchard that we were talking about earlier, and get some other upgrades on things that we really need. So a lot of the things that are kind of going on federally actually have a really big impact on what seedlings we can provide to you all and in what way. So a lot of these things really do hit home here too. So again, we're kind of playing here, but yeah, some of the future challenges we have, right? A lot of the same things that have kind of been ongoing. What our job really is here is to make sure that, we supply all of you with species that you can be pretty confident that are going to be healthy, can face the challenges of new pests and diseases that kind of come across, can face a lot of the challenges of some of the new climate conditions and things like that. So, a lot of these things haven't really changed over the years. It's kind of nice to have some constant in an ever-changing world, but things that we're kind of always dealing with and try to adapt better to.
I could imagine that the volunteer component could become more important depending upon some funding interruptions. So there was a question about where is the website to volunteer. Could you just give your website address just so people could write it down?
Yeah. So I think I have it at the end of the presentation, and I can
Okay, great.
also
They can
make sure
so they can
I
screen
throw it in
grab
the
it or
chat too.
take a picture of it. And
Yeah.
excellent. All right, we'll hold out on that. I just wanted to make sure we didn't miss it for anybody who was asking.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And I know we're working on some more of our website hopefully soon too. So hopefully we can organize it a little bit better and make it easier for you guys navigate into some of the new areas and things too. But since we were talking about climate a lot also, I just wanted to put out there that we have a lot of resources ourselves that the public has access to also, to start to think about, right? We had that question, okay, well, what southern species maybe are we looking at to try and start integrating into the areas? And this is one resource that we use a lot, and we're actually trying to look into more and see if we can maybe collaborate with some of the universities and groups and things like that, and helping us maybe set up areas where we test some of these things out around the nursery. So the climate change tree atlas is actually a really useful tool. Basically, it's set up for a variety of tree species across the country. And it actually kind of shows you, okay, well, what species are actually predicted to do better or worse with some of the changing climate predictions in the future. So this is something that we're probably going to use quite a bit to see, okay, well, those species that are just south of the New Jersey border, what kinds of things might do better here as the climate changes in the next 10, 20, 50, 100 years? Because again, yeah, we plan in terms of like far into the future. Those trees that we planted when we were little are something that we're really going to have to keep in mind when it's 50 years later. So again, some things that we're looking into more into the future, right? Having climate adapted and resilient species for all of you. So we know your forests are going to be prepared when some more of these risks start kind of showing and coming along. We want to try to do more experimental work. So like we were saying, looking at some of those different species. We've also been thinking about, okay, well, if there's a lot of native species that we have that are difficult for some other private nurseries and things like that to grow, what can we do, or how can we work in seeing what the process is of, or trying to propagate those species better or more efficiently? And maybe that'll help us provide information to private nurseries as well. More collaborations. We really want to work with more universities, more groups like NJFA and things that we do. So that, and we're really trying to think creatively to some of these complex solutions that we have too. And yeah, we want to work with volunteers a lot more, because we know all of you are really passionate about trees and forestry too. And we want to kind of show where both of those things align with, your passions and ours. All right, so maybe do you want to take a moment to maybe see some more of the chat before we kind of
I
jump
thought,
into
let's
the
take a poll on the quantity question,
yeah,
because I think that helps you plan, and you might be able to talk a little bit about volumes available.
definitely.
So this is called My Seedling Needs. I expect to order, and these are quantities.
Hopefully we see some of those bigger numbers this year so we can get some of those orders out. No seedlings left.
Let's give it another few seconds. And ending the poll, 76% are 50 or less.
Okay.
16%, 50 to 150. 6%, 150 to 300. None in the 300 to 600 category, and 2 in the greater than 600 category.
Okay. Good to know. It's also interesting because even though a lot of people said they wanted bare root, maybe that means if you want bigger trees faster a little bit too, maybe that means container stock is maybe more the direction to go. It's interesting. All right, we got any more questions coming up in
I
the
think that's it for now.
chat?
We have some questions on the FREC, but you'll have to
Okay.
talk about it a little bit.
Yeah, great. Yeah, so we'll kind of jump in just the same way that we gave everybody a good overview of the nursery and the facility that we have there. So just to give everybody an idea, the FREC was built sometime around the early 2000s, around 2003 or so. So it's one of the newer buildings that we have on site. Just to give you an idea, so the nursery is located just adjacent to the FREC area. So this kind of tan area to the top of the map that you see here, that's where the nursery is located. So just over our new bridge of the going over the headwaters of the Toms River is where you'll come over to the FREC. We actually have about 8 miles or so of trails around the area. So you can see we talked about a little bit. We have like about 900 or so acres of pinelands forest in this area. So definitely a really great area to be able to explore and see some of the different things we have going on. We have a nice display in the lobby and classroom area that we use for different programs and things that we'll talk about a little bit more. We actually have a portable sawmill over in this area too that we use for demonstration, and also a little bit for materials supplying the nursery and some of the FREC area as well. We have a sugar shack, which many of you might have seen before. If you're doing a lot of maple sugaring operations on your own properties, we actually do some of this right on site here. You'll get to see what some of that looks like. And they actually, I think, finished up the final maple sugaring operations just this past weekend. So we actually worked some of that into different programs where some people got to see that actually in action. One of the things that we really want to talk about and highlight too over at the FREC area is a lot of our staff over there has really been working the last couple of years with several people and organizations and trying to create this what's called a sensory trail. So it's actually going to be probably one of the only in the state that's actually set up for audio and visual impaired individuals. So you can't see it in this image to the right, but it's actually going to have a nice little display that people can feel, and it'll have relief and things like that on it. And it'll actually have some sound items and stuff to help people hear, sounds and things of the forest and stuff that's going on around the area. And it's got this nice guide rope that goes around that people can actually hold on to and walk with. And it's got some markers on there so people know where to stop if they're visually impaired, and with signs nearby and that kind of thing. And it's got braille. So it's actually a really, really unique piece that they've set up on the FREC property, this trail here. It's really interesting. We're hoping to kind of have nice little unveiling of it sometime in June, so stay tuned. And we'll just give you an idea too of like what some of the other outside areas look like. So we have some nice educational displays, and you can walk around to learn about some of the species and how to identify them. So we have these really nice IDing plant signs that they've installed over the last year or two, that are around the property, both the Freck and nursery. And this is just a nice view of the outside of the building. So we do have bathroom facilities and things like that. We have a lot of activities and groups that come on site. We have a nice little fire pit area and picnic tables and things. So it's also just a nice spot to come by and hang out and have lunch.
Yeah, there was a question about whether the trails, I assume this new trail is well marked, but were the other trails well marked? Do people?
Yeah, so there's actually a nice sign that we have outside of the facility now in the parking area that's got the trails marked out on it. I believe they're working on a trail brochure as well. And then yeah, as you go along, all the trails have paint markers along as you're walking to guide you to the next spot along the trail. So this is just a look inside to what the education center looks like. So this is actually as you walk in the main doors. This is the lobby area. So we'll probably try and freshen up some of the things that are inside here, but it's a really beautiful and unique place. You can learn about a lot about wildlife, different tree species, a little bit of history, different forest products, things like that. Some of the historical tools and things that were used. And then as you can see now, we get a lot of questions from people that frequent the Freck and that kind of thing, because I know this has kind of been in the making for the last couple of years. But yes, we do have our new and improved bridge. We do get a lot of fishermen and anglers and things in the area because we do trout release programs from this spot as well. So it's nice for everybody to know. We do have a nice new bridge that connects the two places now. And so this is our sugar shack here. So just kind of getting a look inside. So we use this a lot for educational purposes. We actually have a lot of our part-time staff that'll go out. They'll tap trees right about when it's ready. So right as the temperatures are starting to warm up a little bit, they're still around the 30s or so at night, maybe a little bit into the 30s, mid 40s during the day. So the last couple of weeks they've actually been tapping the trees, and they got quite a bit of sap from these trees. But I think even sugar maples, I think it takes about 4 gallons of sap to make 1 gallon of syrup. So it's definitely not an easy job, but these guys definitely make it look easy. So we got a cool wood-fired condenser in this building there, so we can show people some of the different forest products that we can get from some of our trees. And kind of continuing on some of the forest products a little bit. So this is what our sawmill looks like, our portable sawmill. We actually in the past have taken it out to larger events and things. So just to do demonstrations with people and what's involved, and how much wood can you get from a tree, and what do some of those things look like. And it's nice because people get a chance to see the tree rings and how some of the trees grow and that type of thing as well. So it's a really unique piece that we get to show others. And we have some of our forest products, loops and things, so people can see, okay, well, what does a cord of firewood look like, and that type of thing. So it's really interesting, especially for people that have never seen this kind of thing before. I don't know, is this another good stopping point, maybe to ask a couple of questions or see what we have?
Sure. Let me go back to the surveys. We have 2 questions for the Freck. So let's see. One is program types, and I'll launch that poll. This is to select the ones that appeal to you. You can pick more than one, but don't pick all 5 because then the data won't be helpful to us.
Yeah, we're always looking to see. I'll talk a little bit more about some of the programs that we currently provide, but it's always interesting to know really what the public's looking for, what landowners are looking to learn, you know, what people like to have available. Hopefully we see that outdoor events light up.
Outdoor events and activities is number 1.
Oh,
And
awesome.
with at 69% of the respondents. And
Okay,
next is visual demonstrations, e.g. forest management, 48%.
great.
And then the rest are even at about 25% professional development, family friendly, and indoor events and activities. So outdoor is definitely the clear winner, with visual demonstrations as the follow-up.
Cool. Very, very good to know. Like I said, a lot of these things guide, you know, where we're trying to move into the future and how we can better serve you all. So that's super
Would you
helpful.
like me to ask the question on topics?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay,
Let's see what we got
I'll
to
launch
say.
that one. This is drilling down now.
Yeah,
For some
so we'll
reason,
talk a little bit about some of our presentations and things that we've been doing to try and um, integrate more of the topics that seem really important and want to know more knowledge about and that kind of thing. So these are really going to help guide where we go next with some of those as well.
so forest pests, diseases, and invasives comes in number 1 with 70% of
Wow. Okay.
respondents expressing an interest in that. And then the next 2 are forest trends and data and forest science and technology, including
Great.
prescribed burn. And then going down now, history of New Jersey's forests. And then pretty even nursery operations, carbon sequestration and storage, and forest fire risk. That's an interestingly low number at, around 20% for the forest fire risk. We've had a lot of contacts recently about it. And I suspect that as the spring comes, depending on how the spring
Wildfire
season,
season.
yes,
Uh-huh.
exactly, interest will resume. But definitely forest pests, diseases, and invasives.
Interesting. Yeah, that's definitely not what I would have guessed as kind of being the front runners and things there. So that's really good to know.
Right.
Thanks all for doing that.
All right. Thank you.
All right. So we'll kind of start getting into, all right, well, how do we use some of these places to help engage with you all more and help you understand some of the things that we're working on or trying to do, or how you can better do stewardship on your forested areas and that kind of thing also. So I just wanted to give everybody idea. It's good that that forest trends and information came up as something that everybody was really pretty interested in terms of a topic, because I got a little bit of a teaser for you here then. So one thing that's really interesting that not a lot of people really realize about our state is that New Jersey is it's about half forested. So we got about 1.9 million acres, just shy of 2 million acres of forest land. And you can see from the graphic here, so the green is all forest land. So it's mostly situated in the northwestern part of the state, and then also the southeastern part of the state. Um, so we're just about half forested. That's pretty wild for a place that has about 9 million people living in it. And it's good to know. Thank you all for owning your private forest, because about half of that forested land is privately owned and half of it is publicly owned. So like state, federal, local governments, those kinds of things. Um, so what does that mean in terms of like how important it is to manage these areas? Well, it's very, very important because there's a lot of people in this state that depend on these forested areas for clean air, clean water, quantity of water, a lot of really important things, carbon, um, a lot of climate regulation, things like that. So it's something that's, very important to us, and it's very good to have a focus and understand. All right, well, there's a lot of people that have decisions on the forest that we have, whether or not they live close to them. So if you can see kind of this yellow kind of highlighted area, well, that's really where most of our population is kind of centered. So we have a lot of people that might not necessarily interact with the forest on a day to day that have a lot of decision making on what happens to them. So it's really important that we help people have a really good understanding of how important they are and the effects that happen to them, how they can really impact where we live and what we do.
Now, what about forest loss? Do you have any data on that?
Yeah, so we actually the Forest Inventory and Analysis Program, it's a federal program that actually helps us collect data in all the forested areas in New Jersey, and that's one thing that they collect as well. And we do have some land use change information that's collected year to year, but that's something that we're really interested in knowing more about too. Because a lot of people might see like development is a really big impact these days, and it's something that we really got to keep tabs on. Not only are we losing forests, but we're also losing carbon and a lot of those benefits associated with the forested areas.
Right. I believe that what I saw of the preview of the data is that it looks like forestry activities themselves are not consuming forest at all. It's basically neutral, but that development like warehouses may be impinging on forest land at this point.
Yeah, it's something that we really, try to keep an eye on and see how things are changing and in what ways. We've actually been lucky enough that over, the last, several decades that a lot of our forested area hasn't changed that much, which is really nice to see. But yeah, we really got to focus on, okay, well, where are things going and how are they changing? And we got to keep a close eye on how they might affect the forested areas and that kind of thing, like development and that type of thing. So one of the very important things why we asked you, okay, well, who are all of you? Are you landowners? Are you NGOs? Are you local government? Who are you? So when we're trying to figure out how to engage with the public better, how we communicate forestry and natural resource management and issues better, the very first thing that we need to do is, okay, who is our audience? And then once we know our audience, what do they know? What are their skills? What's their understanding? What's their knowledge? We need to understand where our audience is at. And then the next thing we need to do in terms of communication and education, which is what we're doing at our Forest Resource Education Center, is, okay, how do we bring our audience to a place where we want them to understand some of these skills or knowledge or things a little bit better? And then where we go from there is, okay, well, what channels can we provide to help all of you kind of explore some of these topics and ideas and things further to get a better understanding or to learn more about some of these things you're interested in. So I'm going to talk about a handful of things that we're doing right now to try and help engage you all and more of the public and some of the more of the organizations and things in the state better. So remember these as we kind of go through some of these different things that we have ongoing right now. So one of the things we talked about a little bit, what we're trying to do is have more in-person programs. Some of these things we do currently. So we work with schools, primarily in the spring and fall, at our education center. So we do a lot of great programs. One of the things that we kind of link to the nursery that we do there is a Seeds to Trees program. So just kind of showing that, yeah, there's a whole life cycle that's going on here, right? We have seed from mature trees that we collect, that we grow, that we turn into young trees that get planted and then can grow into mature trees again. So just understanding that there's a whole cycle of life for trees and habitat and things that's going on here. So we got a lot of other great programs that they do here. Again, the sensory awareness trail that we have. These are programs that we're working with different groups and individuals and things on to bring to the area to be able to learn about forestry and natural resources as well. So you can see a lot of the great pictures from the programs we've had over the years. The other things that we've been doing over at the FREC, so we have these really fun Eventbrite programs. So these are kind of like night and weekend type programs. The maple sugaring stuff we talked about a little bit already. Some different hikes and special events that we do on certain days and that kind of thing. So these hopefully fit into what you all were saying about, okay, well, yeah, we want to have more outdoor events and activities and that type of thing. So it's really good to know that those are the types of things that you're looking for, because that's what we can try to focus on a little bit more. Some of the things that we also do, so we team up with other organizations on something called the New Jersey Envirothon. So it's actually getting a lot of students involved and interested and kind of, you know, a little friendly competition with schools and things like that on environmental topics and that type of thing. We do a lot of tabling and outreach type events. We have a lot of people that reach out to us for those sorts of things. So we, you know, we try to do them as we can provide staff to do it. And then a lot of you asked about volunteering opportunities. So this is actually the new email address that we have, so you can submit your volunteer forms and that type of stuff too. So if you have interest in volunteering with the nursery or the FREC or any of our other Forest Service programs, you can just send your information there and we'll try to reach out to you and see where you might be able to help us with interest that you have.
That's volunteer.forestry@dep.nj.gov.
Yeah.
Okay. By the way, you're getting a lot of accolades in the chat and in the Q&A on previous visits to the facility.
Oh, great. Glad everybody's had a good time there. We're doing a lot of great programs these days too. So something that DEP has been involved with is called the DEP Youth Inclusion Program. So it's actually been a chance to get individuals from, you know, cities or areas where they're not used to being able to have a lot of interaction with the forest or even think about natural resource careers. And it gives them a chance and an opportunity to see a lot of the different agencies and the professionals and the work that they do, so that they can get an interest in pursuing these types of careers. That's something that we've been really enjoying a lot too. We had some fun games and things going on, getting people excited about young people excited about forestry this year. All right, so one of the other things that we've been doing collaboratively with our other programs are also called these pocket presentations. So it's kind of been a chance for us to work through what topics seem to be kind of misunderstood or people have really been interested in or really want to know more about. So we've tried to start putting these presentations together. These are the first 4 that we have. It kind of started as like 15 to 20-minute videos or so that people could watch on YouTube. But, you know, we're starting to adapt them even more as we go along, as we get feedback from people like you to see, you know, what you're interested in. So actually, everybody's saying, okay, you know, we're really interested in topics on forest pests and disease and invasives and things like that. that really gives us a good direction of, okay, well, where do we go next with the topics? What do you all want to know about, or what's going to be helpful for you? So what can we do? One of the future videos that we're hoping to come out sometime maybe in the next several months is going over dendrology. So just understanding how to ID a lot of the trees that you might have on your property or in your town or that kind of thing. And kind of the steps or the process of going through that. So I was hoping, I think if time might allow, we can do some kind of quick trailer teasers on some of the videos that we have right now. And if you scan these QR codes, they should work, but we'll just give you a little idea of what can you expect from some of these videos that we have already.
Hey there! Have you ever wondered how something as small as a carbon atom can have a big impact on our planet? Well, at the New Jersey Forest Service, we've been thinking a lot about this. In our new video, we'll take you on a journey to explore what exactly carbon is and how it interacts with New Jersey's forests. You'll learn about some of the current climate trends in our state and discover why forests are so important when it comes to carbon and our future climate goals. If you're curious to know more, click the link in the description to watch our video. What's carbon got to do with it? It's an educational adventure you won't want to miss.
So how long are these videos typically?
So the full videos are about 15 to 20 minutes. The longest one we have so far is the silviculture one. But that one you can actually go through like different chapters. So if there's like forest management topics that you're particularly interested in, you can kind of click through the different topics and start at those points. So it makes it a little easier to kind of navigate through.
But each one is pretty manageable.
Yeah. Yep.
For reviewing. Okay, cool. I just wanted people not to be put off by thinking, oh, it's a major time commitment. It's just something to, pick up some good information prepared by reliable resources.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so I'll pop through some of these other ones pretty quickly. I know we're getting a little close on time here. I want to make sure we address some of your questions that you have. So I know you all talked about
I'm collecting
forest data
about this forest, but you might be wondering, what kind of data am I collecting and why is it useful? Those are excellent questions, my friend. Data is information that helps us understand things better. In this case, we want to know more about the forest. Knowing things like how many trees are in a forest and their species, size, and age helps us make better decisions about how to take care of the forest and keep it healthy. If you want to learn more about forest data and how we use it to help the forest, check out our YouTube video. Just click the link in the description. Together, let's take care of our beautiful forests.
And I know it seemed like people were interested a lot in kind of the history of forests and natural resource management, that type of thing too. So the Why Manage a Forest one that we have actually touches a little bit on some of our historical land use and getting a better idea of, okay, where have we been and what does that mean for where we are now and where we move forward. So that's a little bit of a touch into it. And then again, the what is the silviculture that kind of goes through different aspects of forest management, that type of thing. So that might actually be useful to landowners if you see things in your plans and you're not quite exactly sure maybe what they mean. That kind of gives you a pretty good overview of what some of those treatments look like, or what you might be able to expect to see, or why we do them, what the purpose is.
So all of these are on your YouTube page.
Yes. Yep.
That'd be the New Jersey Forest Service YouTube page.
Yeah. So they might actually be on the YouTube one, but if you search them, it's pretty easy to find. I'll just go through these quick.
Have you ever heard of?
So again, that's just one of the things that we're currently trying to do to help more of our outreach and engagement and communication efforts. We do have a couple other things that we're also have in place that we're trying. So we have this Ask a Forester email that we're trying to have a really open line of communication to a lot of our technical experts, our foresters, on any questions that anybody might have, or if you want to learn more and set up different kinds of events and things like that. So we've been trying a lot on providing this on a lot of communication that we take to tabling events or different places. We try to have business cards available for people. So this is a really nice area for us to get an idea of, okay, what kind of things are people interested in? And also, how can we help spread more of that information? And some of these pocket presentations we actually used to help us go through some of those things. So it's kind of things that we had in our back pocket that we can help use to explain what we're doing and why it's important.
So Bill Zipsey just posted the the web addresses for the various presentations in the chat. So if anybody's
Great. Thanks,
interested
Bill.
in- Thanks, Bill.
And to get to the last thing we got to talk about here, so we also, right, we still use a lot of the printed materials because it's really important to have those on our physical sites where we're doing different kinds of management and things like that. But we have these in some of our offices and things too, and they also have the QR codes on there. So if you're in a hurry, you want to find out more, you can still go to our website and find out more information about some of the projects and things that we're doing and why. And we have some nice handouts. So this is just an example of some of the Atlantic white cedar restoration activities that we're trying to do. A lot of these things are gonna happen in areas of Wharton first. So I think we talked about this in the last NJFA meeting, what we're trying to do in terms of an overall strategy for restoring Atlantic white cedar across the state. So we're trying to do these types of things more at the events and that type of stuff that we go to. And then if anybody is interested in it here, you can scan that QR code, and that's what takes you to our website and all the information and what we're trying to do. So we're trying a combination of a lot of different things. So another example, I'll just go through this quickly, is just, we're trying some different social media campaigns. One thing we got a lot of questions from landowners about is, we have these people, they say they're from the US Forest Service and they want to come out and measure trees on our property. Is this legitimate? What's going on here? So it gave us an opportunity to kind of get some of that information across and talk about what they're doing and how it's important and how it helps all of us.
I think I've mentioned this before, but I have one of those sites on my property and they come every few years and do counts.
Oh, great.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. I spent a lot of time with the person doing it. And at first like anybody shows up at your house, you're skeptical. But after the requisite ID and whatever else, it all turned out to be legit. And it's very, very interesting how they do it and what they do. So
so this gave us a chance to kind of highlight those things and, ease some people's concerns about stuff that's going on and have them be, better prepared for what's happening and be a little bit more amenable to it. So I'll just touch on these things real quick. I know I want to be mindful of time, but these are some of the things that we have future goals for it. And I'm really glad a lot of you guys gave us feedback on some of these things that we're kind of trying to work on, like the demonstration forest. That's something that we'd really like to work on, and that would give you really good visuals of, okay, what do some of these forest management methods look like? And seeing them is kind of everything. It really gives you a really good idea. So we're hoping we can kind of work on more pocket presentations based on the topics that you all talked about. Hopefully we can move forward with some of these visuals, outdoor events and that type of thing. And what we really want to do is we want to combine, a lot of the past methods and things that we've done and used, but also bring in some of the kind of ongoing changing things that are happening too. So drone work, thinking about maybe how we use virtual reality for getting people to see some of these things that are happening when they can't get to the forest or can't see these areas. You know, working through more social media, doing more of these YouTube videos and things that we're talking about, and you know, and that NJFA is doing in these types of things. So this is stuff we're really trying to work on. And well, what are some of the challenges? Well, it was funny. I kind of started with this is a lot of people don't know we exist over there. Don't know the nursery is there, that the FREC is there. Some things that we're also running into, and for some of our future goals, again, we're in a really virtual world ever since COVID happened. I mean, we're on a virtual webinar right now that happens, you know, every month. So, you know, things have really changed, and us being adaptable is really important in how we kind of move forward with serving the people and meeting the needs of the things that everybody's looking for. A lot of issues that we have with school groups and things is they have a lot of hard time these days actually getting out of the classroom because of busing and things like that. So these are things that, you know, we're really trying to work our way through and figure out really, really good and creative and unique solutions too.
But I see you have all your contact information up there.
Yeah,
Right.
so I was hoping we'd get to this. So you should be able to find some of those YouTube videos on that DP YouTube, and then that's our Ask a Forester email and our website. And you know, we have Facebook. We're trying to look into getting into a little bit more different aspects of social media that might be helpful for us, but that's where you can contact us on any questions you have and things you want to learn.
Well, I have to thank you so much. And of course, will shamelessly plug that you'll be at our annual meeting on March 15th. So if anybody wants to follow up with questions in person, they should
Definitely.
register
I'm
for the
going to do my
meeting and
best to get
attend.
there.
As will the state forester will be there, and other people from the fire service. So a lot of people will be there that are interesting to speak with. And I got to tell you, I really enjoyed this presentation. I wasn't quite sure where both sides were going to go, and I came out learning a lot.
Neither was
And
I.
really enjoyed the tour of the facility. I'm going to borrow your tractor whenever possible. And look at everybody seems to have really enjoyed it. Lots of thank yous out there. So Courtney, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. I'm glad you guys invited me. This is a really real pleasure to do again. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. And for everybody, we tried to answer as many questions as we could in the course of things to keep things balanced. And so hopefully we answered the majority of your questions, but feel free to follow up with Courtney directly.
Definitely.
I thank you all and have a good night.
Thanks. Bye.
Good night.